Well, good morning, everybody. Okay, that was a little loud. Let me adjust this just a tad. I've been having weird mic issues, and I think I figured out what the mic issues mostly are. So hopefully I'm not blaring your ears out. I hope. Happy Saturday. It's already been a little bit of an event today with everything. It was Saturday Sampler Day, and we signed up for a new Saturday Sampler program this morning. And I'm going to be sewing the program on my channel. I'm going to be doing them the last Saturday of the month, and I am excited to be able to do that. And I could actually show you, in this case, some finished pictures, and I'm using pictures loosely. The quilt pattern is called Sparkle More by Melissa Mortensen. And this is one of the pictures. It is navies, and this is another one of the colorways that they were offering, which is their pink colorway. They also had a holiday, but I couldn't find that picture. So I am doing the navy because blues, and we picked up our first block today, and that is going to be going for, they're somehow going to make it do 12 months. Not certain how. They haven't really told us any information. I meant to put a link to the pattern in the description, but I kind of forgot, which means I guess I need to I got a warning for some reason. No idea what. Oh, I'm having weird connectivity issues. That's fine. Whatever. As long as you guys can still see me, that's all I care. I guess I'll do like an official announcement video. Just do a quick throw up of throwing everything on the screen and saying, this is what we're doing. If you want to join us, this is where you can get the pattern. If you search for Sparkle More by Melissa Mortensen, you'll be able to find the pattern. I believe it's the Polka Dot Chair is her website. Like I said, I'll get better information out there. I'm doing it through my local quilt shop, and they will not let anybody outside join this type of program, so you're going to have to find everything on your own if you want to join in. But I need an excuse to sew these blocks up on time, so I'm going to use that as my excuse. Let's see who we have in the chat now that we've had a couple people have a chance to come in. We have Sean, the guy who sews, came in first, said, "G'day." I'm sorry, my accent's horrible and atrocious. But say it in an Australian accent like Sean would. We have my good buddy Candace in there. And also my good buddy Julie. Hi, you two. Ingrid's here. Hi, Ingrid. And Colleen's here. Hi, bestie. Morning, Jeannie. Candace says she loves the pattern. It is a gorgeous pattern. The thing that I noticed, and I will have shown at some point, I'm probably going to put it in the intro video, is even if you're like, they're all the same blocks, but the colors that they chose and the placement of those colors make everything look completely different. So that's going to be interesting as they start to figure out how everything's going to come together. Good morning, Dubraka. How are you? The I think the more fun piece of the pattern is you're doing everything in squares, and then at the end you have to rotate your block 45 degrees and put a ruler on it, or you can leave your block where it was and rotate the ruler 45 degrees so that you get the granny square design on an angle, I would say on point, but it's not going to be put on point, it's going to be put on an angle. So that, I think, is going to be the challenge part about it, is to make sure that your 1/4 of an inch is just right, so that when you put it on there, when you put your ruler on there, you get a 1/4 of an inch. And generally my 1/4 of an inch is just right, but we will soon see if it is. I haven't even looked to see what the cutting size, because when things go on point, a lot of times they will do weird cutting sizes. And oh yeah, we're going to be doing a bunch of 3/8 and 5/8 in this pattern. So yeah, Russ is going to have a lot of exciting going on, trying to make sure that this pattern comes out as close to accurate as possible. Julie says she has that pattern, but we'll have to watch me piece it together. You can do it while watching me. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't do that. And good morning, Nikki B. Quilts. How are you? So I have a couple things that I was planning on looking at to do this morning. And it just ended up being I didn't have time to cut and prep because work cray. And because of that, I just decided to go back to the Arctic Elegance quilt pattern, which I started at the cruise retreat. And I am going to do, I have a finished block here. I'm like, I know I put it somewhere. So this is a finished block, and I'm going to be working on these flying geese. I have these flying geese as well, but I pulled out the fabric for these flying geese. And before I actually continue, I'm going to triple check that I have the right colors, because we have some colors that are similar. I purchased this as a pre-cut kit from Stitch in Heaven, because they're the ones who did the cruise. So I have all my materials in pre-cut form, in pre-cut bags, to make it pre-cut easy. And by pre-cut, they just cut us into squares and rectangles. They didn't do the cotton cuts pre-cut of cutting them into the triangles for a flying geese. Good morning, Diana. How are you today? So if I can go to the sewing cam view, you can see what I'm doing. And honestly, it's nothing exciting. What I have for my setup, just for anybody who wants to follow along with flying geese in general, the way that flying geese are made is you need a rectangle and 2 squares, and you end up putting one of your squares right sides on your rectangle. It's an interesting shade that this camera is trying to decide that my blue is, because that's not what it looks like. It doesn't matter. You sew corner to corner, and you get your corner to corner either by drawing a line and sewing on that line, or having a laser like I do, or using diagonal seam tape, or winging it. There's multiple ways. I think there's even a like a corner cutoff tool that you can use, where you line up the tool corner to corner and then you slice this section off, and then you can sew your 1/4 inch on the edge. So there's so many ways to do the diagonals on here. So I'm not going to sit here and explain every single one of them, but I am going to start sewing them. And what I do is I just line everything up. I've lowered my stitch length to about a 1.8 on this machine. Every machine is different. And I just line up the point on the end and the point on the needle. And sew. And for you to see a full flying geese, I'm going to have to do this twice because I'm not ripping the machine, or I'm not trimming threads off the machine. So I'm going to do this second one same way as I did the first. I should probably heat up my iron because I'm about to do a press. And what I do is I will, after I pull it off, and I'm going to do this for every single one, all 7,312 of them, approximately. And what I always do first is I press it over to make sure that I am lined up with the outside edge. And this one looks pretty good. I was worried there for half a second, but it is there. And then I will come over and press my seam. No, Ingrid, I'm not using a knee lift. I'm using the power of telekinesis. Once you have it pressed backwards, then I'm just going to use a ruler and slice off the extra in the back. I think asking me if I use a knee lift is going to be as amusing as asking Carl if he's heard of Hamilton. Good morning, Stephanie, who says this is looking great. Good morning, Charlotte. And then once we have the backside cut off, so we remove the bulk, you just put the other side on, lining up with the edges, and do the same thing that we did over here. And I will do a second one just because things look better in pairs. And also, I can't pull one off without... Oh wait, I didn't make sure that I line up. And I do. I normally do everything in a giant bulk fashion. So I forgot to check if it lines up. And then once you have it pressed, again, just lining it up with your ruler. You could freehand scissor this. You can freehand rotary cut it if you want, and you're brave. I'm not brave. And then I'll take this one, line up. And I can pull one off. Again, I just make sure that everything lines. And we have a flying goose. And I think some of the questions that I end up getting asked is, why do I press before I trim? Because I'm crazy. Most of it is for two reasons. Number one, I want to make sure that I'm covering the entire back, because if I don't cover the entire back, this is going to get to be a little wonky, and wonky flying geese plus wonky flying geese equals wonky block, and I don't like wonky block. So I will press it just to make sure it's in there. And sometimes if my stitch line is not exactly where the seam fold is going to be, then I may have a little bit of a gap under here, but nobody's going to really care because it's only going to be like a thread, maybe two. But that helps make sure that I'm not pressing my flying goose over the back too far. And then, of course, if it's not seamed enough, then the seam ripper comes out, just so I can make it better. So that's why I do it the odd way. A lot of people like paper. I like paper. But unfortunately, paper is not compatible with this pre-cut pattern. It's life. But I have to make like 7,000. 120, I think, is what I need to make. But I've already got some that are already in the block, so it's not quite 120. And the great thing is, thanks to Stephanie's retreat, I have all the square and the squares done. So I have these are the center square and the squares. These are the outer square and the squares. They do need to be trimmed, but you know, that's just trimming. So the only thing that I have left in this block is the flying geese that are made with these two colors, and the flying geese that are made with these two colors. And it's 120 each. So I have 240 flying geese to make, and then trim them down, or not trim them down, connect them in pairs to make 120 units. And then once I got those units done, then I can go to making blocks. Yeah, that seems so far down the line. So all I'm going to do, and this is going to be potentially a boring stream, but we will chit chat, is I'm just going to start sewing one side of these flying geese. I'm also doing one set of colors. I'm not going to intermix them because that's when mistakes are made. I triple verified that these colors are the colors that I need for this flying geese. And as long as I stick with these same fabrics, I will not have an issue making my flying geese. Because, you know, the moment that you start mixing things up, you're going to make a mistake. And all of these, like I said, they were pre-cut. I don't know if they used laser or if they used AccuQuilt, or if they just put a giant piece of metal down and sewed through a bunch of layers, but they're all together. The only issue that I've been having with these blocks is a Russ issue. Some of these fabrics, there's not a lot of contrast between, I mean, in this case there is, but like with the whites, there's not a lot of contrast between the top and bottom. Right side, wrong side. So at Stephanie's retreat back in December, when I was working on these blocks, I was going through, just shoving them through the machine, and at the end when I was doing my do they fit when I flip? Do they fit when I flip? That sounds like a good phrase. That's when I was noticing that some of the colors or some of the fabrics were upside down. So I had to rip and resew. Not a big deal. It's only fabric. And I hadn't cut by then. So I guess that's another reason why I will do my steps the way I do, just to make sure I'm not overstepping any or doing any accidental color swaps or color inside outs. And honestly, just sometimes just running through the same thing over and over and over again is kind of, while it's mind numbing, it can be therapeutic. I mentioned earlier that today was Saturday Sampler, and one of my favorite things for Saturday Sampler is show and tell. And I got to show and tell 3 projects today. All 3 I started and finished at Stephanie. Well, I finished the tops of Stephanie's retreats for the quilts. There were 2 baby quilts. One of them was with the Blueprint fabric line that I was doing the binding on last week, which I got a lot of positive feedback on that. It surprised me, so thank y'all. And it was positive feedback on the binding method, not on the quilt. I mean, people did say that was gorgeous too. That is not a square. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to... Okay, so that side is square. But because that's not square, if I do this, I can make it up. So what I'm saying, the back or the top piece, the top square, is not square. It is off by a few threads. So what I did was I found the two sides that were square, took one of them and lined it up on the straight edge that I know, took the other one and let it hanging in the ether. And when I fold it back, I just got to make sure that it covers, so I can see it covers the back piece, not just the front piece. I guess that's what happens occasionally when you let someone else do your cutting. And I went sideways with this. So I got to figure out which sides were my square again. Because I was trying to do the wrong... Okay. So these two are my square sides. And I want it to go through my machine like this. So I just need to rotate it like this. No. Okay. I'm putting that piece in timeout. And I will do that off camera when I understand in my mind what I'm thinking. Because I'm trying to make sure all of my pieces go through the machine the same way, because the first thing that I do differently, somebody's like, why did you do that? And the answer would be, Russ is an idiot. That piece isn't square either. Another big thing this week is I made the decision that I'm going to QuiltCon this year. I had been up in the air as to whether or not I was going to go. And I was like, do I want to go? Do I not want to go? It's, it's a several $100 expense because hotels are not cheap. But I was just like, I kind of want to go. I want to see some of my friends. So I just said, to heck with it. Let me buy my stuff. So I reserved my hotel room. I bought my ticket for QuiltCon. I'm staying at the same hotel that I did 2 years ago, which, while it's not right next door to QuiltCon, the convention center, I think it was 2 turns once you exit the hotel. It might have been 3. But it was very easy for me to get to the convention center. I found a nice place to park, although it's a little pricey to park there. I think around the corner was a little cheaper. But I was just like, I can get in and out of this parking area. And it was covered parking. And so I felt slightly more secure. I don't know. We'll see if I end up parking there again this year or not. And the only reason why I ended up parking is because 2 years ago we had the AT&T outage. I woke up the first day of QuiltCon and I had no cell signal. And I was like, how am I going to get there. Like, well, I would have been able to get an Uber because that was my plan, was to Uber it. But I would not have been able to, or I was uncertain if I was going to be able to get an Uber back. So I basically said, okay, I'll drive it. Then I get in the car, pull up my phone, and said, Waze doesn't work without internet, you idiot. But thankfully, I have GPS in my car. The map is now 13 years old, so new places don't exist. New turns and stuff don't exist. It's fun when I have the map on and I take one of the changes that happened in the area. And it basically just shows me just all off the screen. And it's like, what are you doing? That's how I was able to get there. And I just immediately was like, okay, first place I find to park, I'm parking. So I took the first place I was able to park and parked. And I took that same route all 3 days that I did QuiltCon. So it was really nice, really convenient. And the hotel that I stayed at is across from a mall. So I was like, well, at least I know I'm not going to starve because malls have food courts. There's an Indian place in this mall and it's good. So I'm looking forward to going back to that Indian place. One of the things that we learned 2 years ago was don't try to go to the local quilt shops because they are vending at QuiltCon. So, we tried to go to one of the shops and we got there and I'm like, sign says closed. And we read the sign a little bit closer and like, oh, they're vending at QuiltCon. And I wanted to go up to them and say, why you closed? We want to go see. No. Because, they can't bring everything to vend at QuiltCon. And it's always fun to see my friends. It's always fun to see subscribers, although I don't know what you look like. You know what I look like. I don't know what you look like. So if you see me and say hi, one, make sure I stop because my ADHD, I don't always hear everybody. I've been known to walk by people who say hi and then not realize that they said hi until I'm like 10 feet away and then turn around and try to say, who was that said hi? And, I don't know what you look like. I don't know your screen name. So you're going to have to introduce yourself as if we've never met because we may or may not have met. And even if we did meet before, I am very bad with faces. If you saw my vlog this week, you heard the story about me running into a neighbor at QT and had no idea who he was. So, yeah. Poor Candace can actually attest to that because I met her at QuiltCon 2 years ago. And then I met her a second time at Stephanie's retreat 2 years ago. Or, no, a year ago. Because it was last year's retreat. So, yeah, she's like, do you remember meeting me at QuiltCon? I was like, no, but I'm certain I did. Oh, yeah. I went sidetracked. I was telling you about the show and tells that I did. So the first show and tell that I did was the blueprint baby quilt that I did the binding on last week. The second one was the baby quilt that I did also at Stephanie's retreat. I did the quilting after my live last week and did the binding last weekend. And then the third show and tell I showed was my zipper bag that I made at Stephanie's retreat, which was a lot of fun to make, and I want to make more. I just need to remember to be fussy cutting properly so I get cheetah heads instead of cheetah butts. And it was, kind of sad that I was the only person who had show and tell this week. I get it that some people are a little busy, especially with all the holidays and stuff. So they've probably just gifted all of their stuff that they would have had show and tell, or they showed and told it last month. Showed and told. That sounds like a proper phrase, right? So yeah, I'm just like, yeah. And then since I got the other project that we started on the cruise, which is a charming little quilt, is the name of the pattern. It's by Tiffany Hayes of Needle in a Haystack. I'm going to try to get that on the long arm, if not this weekend, next weekend, and get it bound and have that as my show and tell for next month, because I have to do Saturday Sampler first Saturday next month, because I'm not around for third Saturday, because that's QuiltCon. So yeah, I'm like, I got to make sure everything is done. The good thing though is I'm planning on doing the quilt block on last Sunday of the month, which means not last Sunday, last Saturday of the month, which is going to be in 2 weeks, because February is being special this year. And I will be able to have that ready for first. I'll have basically everything ready for first Saturday for Saturday Sampler. And because February is deciding to be special, and David's deciding to be specialer, and then QuiltCon. And again, I'm going to be putting an announcement video, but you guys have heard this first. The Chatsworth Block of the Month that was going to be starting on February 8th is being postponed by 1 month. The first postponement was because David had has a wedding that's been on his calendar that he did not pay attention to. And it finally, like, we were talking about something the other day, and I said, if you're going to be at the wedding, how are you going to be able to do Chatsworth? And a few select profane words came out of his mouth. So we were like, I was like, okay, we'll just postpone it by 2 weeks. That's not a big deal. And when I made my decision to go to QuiltCon, I looked at things, and then a few profane words came out of my mouth. and said, we're going to have to postpone this until March, which means we're going to go a little bit longer than we were anticipating, but we'll figure that out later. So if you're planning on sewing along with us for Chatsworth, you've got another month to find your fabrics, to get everything ready, and all that other good stuff. I've heard from a number of people that the setting blocks are a little bit of a pain. I've gone through the instructions. I've gone through the videos. I don't see them as a pain. But I also understand how some people might say that they were a pain. So, not quite certain what's going on with it. I've gotten mostly vague responses when I inquire what problems people are finding with that pattern. I think it's not following the directions precisely and not following the video. My opinion, again, don't know exactly what the problems are. So, yeah, I'm not concerned is really what I'm saying. But that's going to be a month later. Still starting Secret Garden in February. So February 1st, we are still going to start that. So we will have Sew Along starting properly. It's just one of them is going to be slightly delayed. And one thing that you can always do, because I now have that up, is you can go to my website, quiltmeetsworld.com, and it has a calendar that says when everything is happening. So, and it will be updated. So if I'm, I've already excuse me, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I've already updated for Chatsworth on there. So those dates have been updated, and I'm also linking directly to the videos once the videos are put up. So if you're just looking for the whole shebang for it, you'll be able to get to them pretty easily. Ingrid said that Colleen had asked her, or had talked her into QuiltCon, and she's going to stay at the same hotel. Nice. We can carpool. Hello, Colleen. Stephanie says, I like cheetah butts and I cannot lie. I think that was the fun part. I did not show the inside of the bag because I knew that there was problems, but that's besides the point. Good morning, Greenland Quilter Katie. How are you? And Julie says she'll be joining Chatsworth. Fabrics are prepared, so ready when we are. I honestly tried to think of other options that I could have done to get Chatsworth moving. Like I thought about doing like a 3-blocker on the like on third Saturday, the Saturday in between what everything would have been. But I was like, that sounds like a lot of prep work. Let's just leave it how it is. So I just updated the calendar. I'm still doing really cool enhancements to the calendar, to the website. Those of y'all who are on my mailing list, yesterday you should have gotten a Sewing Shenanigans reminder, and it looks completely different from the Sewing Shenanigans emails that you have gotten in the past. Why? Because I've got it going through my website now. So you no longer need to email me to say, hey, Russ, can you put me on the mailing list? You can go to my website, quiltmeetsworld.com, scroll to the bottom, and enroll yourself to the mailing list as you want. The other thing is, though, you have to positively confirm that you want to be on the mailing list. So what happens is you put yourself in the box, you tell it subscribe, you will then get an email that says confirm you want to be subscribed. And I do it that way because I hate the sites who will just subscribe anybody. I have been put on so many mailing lists, and I'm like, how did you get my email address? How did you get my email address? I have no idea how you got my email address. And just trying to unsubscribe is a pain in the dupa. So one of the rules that I decided that I wanted, because I'm a jerk that way, is if you want to subscribe to my email, it's going to send you an email saying, please confirm you want to subscribe. And then if ever you want to unsubscribe, all you have to do is click at the bottom of any of the mailings that are sent from me and say unsubscribe. Anybody who is already on my mailing list doesn't have to positively confirm that they want to be on, because you guys had already emailed me and I just copied and pasted your emails into there. So I've been doing some really fun improvements as of late. I will not be putting the Zoom link on the website. So anybody who wants to join Sewing Shenanigans, you must either be on my mailing list, or you have to grab the link from my videos in order to join. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know that there's hopefully my math is fine. Because I know there's people who prefer not to be on mailing lists, and I'm okay with that. But I also want to give people that option that if they want to be notified, that they can. And your email does not get shared with anybody, so you don't have to worry about me just saying, hey, this is your email address. There you go. I am not that type of a place. Not that I really know who any of these email addresses are assigned to. And I'm working on getting more and more stuff up on the website so that you can have... Y'all saw that, right? Light just turned off. But I'm working on trying to get more and more stuff up on the website just so that YouTube's not the only place you're getting information. And I think it's mostly the calendar that I've been wanting to make sure is available to everybody. Because when I'm doing multiple sew-alongs, 3, 4, I want to make sure everybody has the same same level of information on what blocks are being done when and where. I'm still going to show everything on YouTube. And I'm going to tell everything on YouTube. It's just the website's a second option that you'll be able to look at. Stephanie goes, "It's your ghost friend." Yes, yes it is. I've lived with ghosts my entire life. It's just this one is the first one I have no idea who it is. At my grandmother's house, doors would just open and close randomly. And, you know, like, we'd have friends and they're like, "Oh, it was just the wind," or this or that or the other. And I was like, well, I have a story that, yeah, it happened. When we were living in South Carolina, before he passed away, my mom's Uncle Eddie would always come down every fall and spend the winters down south, and then he would leave every spring. After he passed away, our front door, which was a door that he used when he was alive, would open every fall and every spring after he passed. And I have to make the comment of that's the door that he used when he was alive, because sometime after his passing, we stopped using the front door for some reason. I don't really know the full logic why we stopped using the front door, but we stopped using the front door. And that front door stayed chained shut and everything. So, and because we never used it, it never got unchained. But every spring, it would open up, and every fall, it would open up. So that's always been when Uncle Eddie was coming to visit and leaving. And yeah, we have heard and or seen it happening. So yeah, I believe in ghosts is really what I'm saying. Colleen says she's not on my mailing list. Well, good news, Colleen. You could add yourself to my mailing list right now. Just go to my website, quiltmeetsworld.com, fill in at the very bottom, and you'll be able to get all the information. Good morning, Eva. How are you? She says, "Hello, Russ and everybody. How are you doing today?" I am having a pretty good day today. Other than the fact that I'm seeing that some of my squares aren't exactly square. And it's not my fault. This was one of those pre-cut kits. And I'm just going to joke that somebody was drunk when they were doing this. I am not accusing anybody of doing anything wrong, because I know fabric shifts. But it has been, a little bit of an adventure. And I've still got just enough bobbin to do, who knows how many more. I was a minute late to the live because I had the wrong thread in my machine. As soon as I was connecting to YouTube, I looked down and I saw blue thread down there. I'm like, that's not right. So I had to quickly grab my other thread, run it through the machine, and got that through. Yay, Colleen found it. Or, I'm sorry, Colleen found it. I need to pronounce your name correctly. I know so many Colleens and now only one choline, so it's a Russ problem. And Russ will fix this problem, even if I have to get the electrostatic shockers out. So I'm about halfway through the first half of these flying geese, which technically means I'm a quarter of the way through this set of flying geese. But we are approaching noon, which means that's going to be about a stopping point, at least for the live, because doing lives for longer than an hour gets to be a little wearing out. As a reminder, this is going to be the block that I'm going to be working on. And I have all the center squares done. I have all of the outer squares done, except they haven't been trimmed on the back. And I have 120 minus 8 of this flying geese to do. Okay, minus 2 more. So 110 left to do. And then I have 112 to do in these colorways. So maybe next week I will be continuing with this. Maybe next week I will be working on something else, because like I said, I've had a couple other projects I want to get done in here. So it just all depends on how much cutting I can get done. As a reminder, tomorrow on Zoom is the next entry, event of Sewing Shenanigans. Anybody who has not heard of it yet, it's just a Zoom, private Zoom. Anybody can join. It's not broadcast on YouTube, so nobody can see what you look like except for the people that are on the Zoom. And we don't care if you have your makeup on. We do care if you are, at least half dressed, because we don't need to be seeing that. You don't want to see me half undressed, so yeah. So yeah, it's a fun event, and it's just, like I said, it's just on Zoom. We do ask that you have your camera on. We are not judging your sewing room. We are not judging anything about you. We just want you on camera just to make sure that you are who you think you are, and to say, just to give everybody that little bit of peace of mind that they're not being judged. So if you want to join, like I said, there's a link down below. If you're on my mailing list, you have gotten it. I don't know if I can send one offers with this new software. So I'll probably just look later this afternoon, and if anybody is new, I'm going to see how I can get you the link, because that's what I normally try to do. But either way, the link is in the description of this video below. It's also in the link of my vlog on Wednesday. So if you want to join us, that would be awesome. It starts at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and it goes through about 3:30 p.m. Eastern. You don't have to be there at 8:30. There's usually only a couple people who are there at 8:30, and it's those of us who are early risers. You can come in at any time during that time frame, and you will still be welcome. We have a lot of people who come in basically just for lunch. We have some people who come in just for the mornings, some people who come in just for the afternoons. It just really depends on what your schedule is and what you have going on. So if you can join us, that's awesome. If you can't, there's always next time. So hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to sew with y'all tomorrow. Toodles!